News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Elon Musk's SpaceX seeks to raise $75 billion in the biggest IPO ever. According to a filing, the company is offering more than 555 million shares and sees the price at $135 per share, targeting a $1.77 trillion market value. SpaceX has applied to list on the NASDAQ stock market and NASDAQ Texas under symbol SPCX. Goldman Sachs is actively helping lead SpaceX's highly anticipated IPO. Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon says this took decades to come to fruition.
The decision wasn't made until the last 6 months. And there's a lot of things that the team did over the last 6 months that contributed to the ultimate result, which, by the way, now we have to execute.
Hear the full conversation with Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon on the Bloomberg Odd Lots podcast. Turning now to the war with Iran. Iran claims its Navy targeted what it describes as a command and control center aboard a U.S. destroyer that it blames for hostile actions against Iranian commercial vessels in the Gulf of Oman. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency reported the incident a few hours ago. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the Trump administration was aware of potential global economic fallout from launching a war against Iran. He was questioned by ranking Democrat Gregory Meeks.
Did you warn President Trump that this conflict would drive up costs?
The president and the full administration was aware that there would be consequences to action, but the consequences of Iran having a nuclear weapon were worse.
Did you warn him that launching a war in Iran could result in the regime placing a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz?
All the risk factors were understood. We were prepared for any response that they came out with.
Okay.
We knew it.
Just want to make sure.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio testified before the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Also on Capitol Hill, the updated text of the Senate's reconciliation bill released by the Judiciary Committee does not include funding for President Trump's Ballroom. Senate Republicans are pressing ahead with a bill to fund Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection while scrapping money for a Whitehouse ballroom and the DOJ. President Trump has signed an executive order that strips job security from nearly 8,000 federal positions, expanding his authority to fire career employees who work on policy matters. The directive allows the president to fire at will staffers who fail to implement and advocate his policies. Opponents say the move opens the door to replacing career professionals with political loyalists. And President Trump has posted on social media that he will be attending the G7 in France immediately after the UFC World Championship fights on the South Lawn of the White House. The Federal Reserve has released its Beige book, a summary of economic conditions across the U.S. Data show employment remains steady in most regions, but most Fed districts saw higher inflation than in the previous period, with prices increasing at a moderate to strong pace across the country. A renewed advance in oil sent stocks lower over concerns about prospects for a peace deal with Iran. We bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 lost 56 points, NASDAQ down 240 points. The Dow lost 621 points. That's more than 1.2%. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.48% and the 2-year yield at 4.07%. WTI crude topped $96 a barrel and Brent crude closing in on $98 a barrel. Crowdstrike shares are down more than 9% in extended trading after the security software company reported its first quarter results and gave an outlook. While those results beat expectations and the full-year forecast was raised on key metrics, it just wasn't strong enough to extend the recent strength in the stock. Broadcom delivered a forecast for the current period, disappointing investors, signaling that AI-fueled sales are growing more slowly than some anticipated. The company is making headway, pivoting to AI customers. It is up against outsized investor expectations. Shares of Broadcom more than 5% lower in the post-market. Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan tells Bloomberg the company is continuing to hire, even as AI and other tech tools take over jobs. He says the market has absorbed AI spending.
One of the ways that we think about is we are a buyer of these services, and a big buyer. $13 billion in technology a year. It was $250 million this year in 26 on AI-related spending. And so the question is, what's the affordability of that? That will be the interesting question, how all this comes together. But right now, it's a heck of a stimulus in the economy, that going on.
Hear more of our interview with Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan on the Bloomberg Talks podcast. Billionaire investor Dalio says the booming AI market shows signs of a bubble that will burst.
A very small small percentage of the population is going to do unbelievably, and a lot of people won't. I'm not optimistic on us working together to solve.
So what's the end? Is it a bubble that bursts eventually?
I think it is, yes.
Bridgewater Associates founder Ray Dalio spoke with Bloomberg's Danny Berger at the Forbes Iconoclast Summit in New York City. XCel Energy CEO Bob Freznel says the utility plans to keep electricity costs in check as AI and data centers drive a sharp increase in power demand.
Over the last decade, we've been able to keep our bills well below the rate of inflation for our customers. And we expect over the next decade we can keep it at or just above inflation and make sure that our customers have a more modern, more resilient, more sustainable grid.
Freznel spoke with Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall at the Edison Electric Institute conference in Las Vegas. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.